Today, I want to make a list of the top 10 films that you should be watching for Halloween. They're not in any order, and this is just going to be part one. So if I feel like doing a part two, I'm going to call it a part two. But for now, I'm just going to call it what it is. So we're going to start off with some of my favorite films that I recommend you watch. And they're not in any order, like I said. And that's just how I'm going to do it. So as you guys can see, we're going to start off with Halloween. There it is. The classic 1978 Halloween. This is the 40th anniversary, but they came out with another version. So there it is, Halloween, as you guys can see. Classic. This is what spawned the rest of the Halloween franchise, and it's still going on. I don't know if it's going to be a TV show now, but that's what it is. So this is the classic Halloween. You can't go wrong with this film in any way. So the next one I recommend is Friday the 13th, The Killer Cut, which came out in 2009. And for what it was pretty good. I'm not going to say that it was horrible. It was great. I'm going to say this is the 2009, The Killer Cut, and it was great for what it was. Like, it's in the hiatus now. There hasn't been any rumors of a new film or anything. It's just the video games have been spawning here and there because they can't make the film. But for what it was great. And I was expecting a sequel to come out of this, but since they're in court still fighting the battle to try to get the rights to this film, then we don't have anything as of now. But like I said, this is a great film also. So don't think that this film, because it came out in 2009, was horrible. It was actually pretty good for being made by Michael Bay. Now, the next film that I'm definitely going to say that it's another one of my favorites is Overlord. Okay? I watched this when it came out in the theaters, and I enjoyed it. J.J. Abrams was great. He's a great guy for creating this. It's beautifully shot. I would say it's more of a zombie film. It's not anything close to what people thought it would be. People thought this movie was going to be a tie-in to the Cloverfield films or something, but it had nothing to do with it. This was more of a war zombie type film, and it was shot very beautifully. When you watch this film, it's incredible. You may say, yeah, there's some stuff that is not great, but overall the film itself was shot beautifully. The zombie portion of it, the villains, it was okay. I would say it's still pretty good for what it was. So that's another one of my favorite films. Overlord. Don't get confused with another film, because I think there's like other films that want to be Overlord, or they have the same name, and technically they're their own thing. So this is great for what it was. J.J. Abrams created a great film with this. The next one that I'm going to say that Eli Roth did somewhat of a I'm going to give this like this, okay? This film is called Clown, directed by or created by Eli Roth. So from the Master of Terror, Eli Roth, which I don't really say that I haven't seen too much of Eli Roth's content or films, is what I'm saying. Clown, I would say it's not a masterpiece, but the violence in this is actually good. Like, the whole premise of the story, the whole settings is pretty nice, but the whole like some aspect of the atmosphere, like having kids walking around in the woods at night, like, it doesn't make sense. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense for this film, but I'm going to say it's still a pretty good film. It's violent. The atmosphere sometimes is pretty good, and then there's times where it's like lackluster, and there's some stuff that you're like, wow, I didn't expect this to happen in the film. But like I said, it is what it is. It's pretty good. So it was written by Christopher Ford and John Watts. So this I'm just gonna say this one was just a spoof. Like, when it first came out, it was just a trailer YouTube video that was made just as a joke, but then it spawned this film, which I'm going to say this is not the best film out there, but for what it is, I'm going to say it's okay. So it's not my favorite, but it's still up there as a great Halloween film. It has nothing to do with the Halloween franchise, but like I said, it just has to do with the atmosphere of Halloween. So I'm gonna say it's okay. In my book, it's okay. The next one I'm gonna say is two of them at the same time. So we're going with The Crazies, which I'm going to say it's really good. It's really good. The Crazies. I remember when it came out in theaters, and I didn't watch it because I don't know. I don't remember why I didn't watch it, but I just didn't watch it. Then Let Me In with Chloe Grace Moretz is pretty good. So these two films are great. Let Me In is great as a kind of vampire film, and this one is more like a virus film, like when you get COVID or something, and you have to fight off the disease. So these two films are great. I got this as a double feature. I don't remember when, but since I've had this, I've called this classic. These two are great, great films. Okay, these are great films. The next one I want to go over is Super 8. So it is from the minds of J.J. Abrams and Steven Spielberg. So for those that don't know too much about Super 8, I'm going to say Super 8 is one of those films that came before Stranger Things. So this is like an atmosphere of Stranger Things. Like if you watch this, you can say, yes, Stranger Things probably copied this film, or they created something similar. They created something based on this or something. It just feels like this is what Stranger Things has become. So I'm not going to say this film is like the ending was my favorite, but for what it was, I have to say, yeah, it was pretty good. The atmosphere was great. The children, including what's her name? Let me see if I can find her name. I don't know her name at the moment. You guys can figure that out. Her name is Elle Fanning or her sister. I don't remember which one was it, because there's her sister. It's Elle Fanning. I think her name is Elle Fanning or Elle Fanning, and she's in it and she's great. And the rest of the cast is great. It's like I said, it's a Stranger Things type of film, so it's got that Stranger Things vibe to it, with all the kids going around the city trying to figure out what's going on and stuff like that, of what the monster is that came to Earth. So it's kind of like this is kind of like a sort of like E.T., because E.T., like something came from space and it became we ended up knowing that it was the alien E.T. So this has kind of like the E.T. vibes, but it's not really E.T. And it definitely has, like I said, it definitely has that Stranger Things setting and stuff like that. Stuff that makes you think of Stranger Things. And the next film that I'm going to say is from I think it's 1961's The Mask. A lot of people say that this thing is atrocious, okay? Some people say this thing is horrible. But once again, I'm going to say this is the 1961 The Mask. Don't get confused with Jim Carrey's The Mask, because this is not Jim Carrey's The Mask. What I do have to say is that this has the vibe of The Mask, okay? So if you watch The Mask, this doesn't have that type of thing where it's the goofiness of The Mask. This has like the horror aspects of The Mask, where you put the mask and instead of turning into this like superhero type person, you become a villain. You put on the mask and you get to feel like evil stuff in your or you start to see visions of evil, or of like you start hallucinating when you put on the mask. So this is different from Jim Carrey's The Mask, where in Jim Carrey's The Mask, he puts on the mask and he becomes some sort of goofy superhero that takes down the villains. But this is where this guy, um, Paul Stevens, yes, Paul Stevens. I think Paul Stevens is the main character or the main actor, and he puts on the mask and he starts hallucinating and starts taking control and doing evil stuff or feeling evil. So this is it. And then there's two more that I'm going to name that I don't have a physical copy of, but I'm going to tell you my favorite film from last year or 2 years ago was Terrifier 2, okay? So Terrifier 2 is one of my favorites because Art the clown is a comedic character. He's full of comedy, and he does a lot of horror. So he does a lot of nasty stuff while still being a comedian, still doing comedy stuff, but he doesn't talk at all. And we don't know what's going on in that film until you watch this new one that's out, that supposedly will tell you a lot about his character and the main character. So we get to see his thing there. But like I said, for horror, it's really violent. Okay, it's really really violent. It's nasty. It's gruesome. It's like one of the best films I've watched in a while, except for the ending. The ending just threw me off. The ending was unexpected. It was like a downgrade. Okay, so the whole film, the whole aspect, the whole environment, everything was incredible. Up to the point where I said that the ending was a huge disaster. It was a huge, huge disaster for me. And the next two films, which I'm going to put them as one film, is Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You. Okay? Both films, I watched them. I like the first one the best. Okay? Because the first one is more of horror. They both have horror, okay? They both have that horror aspect of it. But the second one just feels like it's more emotional. It's more into the motions. You feel the motions with the main character. It's like the first one is more of trying to figure out why she keeps reliving her life over and over back to day one. And you find out that I'm not going to say too much about the film because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't watched it, but I'll say if you're going to watch it, you do start with you have to watch part 1 to watch part 2. But like I said, both are great, but the second one is more emotional, more of you feel emotions while watching it over the first one, because the first one is more horror, more like, wow, I haven't seen these types of things that you get deja vu and you go back to square one. So I do have to say those are the 10 films, because like I said, Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You, I'm putting it as one film. So you can technically say it's more than 10 films, but those are the 10 films that I'm definitely going to say that they're great. Those are the ones I recommend. So if you guys like this content, please like, comment, subscribe. And as always, if you want to help this channel grow, or if you want to continue to see this content, please go into the description down below. And my PayPal will be there so you guys can help fund this channel, because this is just a side channel that I wasn't really going to take full control of and say, look, I'm going to put my heart out for this. So if you guys want to continue to see this content or more content like this, please go down in the description down below, as I said, and click on that PayPal link and donate so you guys can see more content in the future. So thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll catch you guys in another video.